Welcome to Vets to PM's Military Transition Academy podcast, the show where we discuss how to succeed in transitioning from the military service to the civilian workforce. This show and the academy it represents helps veterans transition into meaningful, lucrative post-service careers. Your primary host is Eric Doc Wright, PhD, certified manager, military veteran, serial founder, best-selling business author, philosopher, linguist, and coach. Your other host is Jeremy Burdick, project management professional, scrum master, product owner, and retired Air Force chief, and the current COO of Vets to PM and the Professional Development Unit University, where we will interview veterans successful in corporate America and business to bring you nuggets of wisdom every episode to make you more successful. Next, let's introduce today's guest. Our guest today is Shawn Dominguez, and he's the owner and founder of Dominguez Design and Build. It's a commercial construction company headquartered in Pensacola, Florida. He's originally from Los Angeles, and he graduated from the University of Southern California with a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. He did serve 27 years in the United States Navy as a naval aviator before starting the construction company. He's a proud father of 3 and has been married to his wife, Tara, for over 26 years. He considers himself a lifelong learner that is working hard to build an exceptional company that empowers all of their team members, clients, and community. So let's get started.
So, Shawn, I guess the first question is, I absolutely always love exploring the inflection point between how do you go from whatever you were in the military, so naval aviator in your case, to construction business owner guy now. I mean, what a path there must be in between the two of those. So just real quick, tell us a little bit about you, your background, your service, and then tell us about what you do now, and then kind of take us through the path in the 10-minute version.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, guys. And yeah, so that is quite the contrast, growing up as a kid, man. I saw the Thunderbirds when I was a kid, and I was like, man, I want to do that. And even though they were Air Force, forgive those guys. But so right out of high school, I joined the Navy and enlisted, became I got to pick up an ROTC scholarship, and then became an aviator, a Navy pilot did that for about 25 years. But, deep down inside, I've always had this desire, I got friends here in Pensacola now that they own businesses, and I've always had this desire to kind of do something different, So, about 6 years before I retired, I just started thinking about what I wanted to do as I saw this transition coming to an end. I had a lot of friends that were commercial pilots for Delta and American, and that's all good and it's great, but they just, when I talked to them, I'm like, man, how's the job? They're like, it's great, but it's a job, man. Sometimes I sit in that seat and I'm bored out of my mind. And I knew I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? I wanted to do something a little bit different, maybe take some more chances, maybe have something that wasn't as structured as my military career. And then obviously, like I said, I've always loved entrepreneurship. So I just started planning this out about 6 years, about 6 or 8 years before my retirement, just started planning this transition of, hey, how can I do something different? And I kind of met a mentor here in Pensacola that kind of helped me get that started. So, those are two contrasts. And so when I tell people, hey, I was a pilot, now I own a construction business, it's like, wow. But when you think about it, man, construction, just like any other business, it could have been any business. It's all about managing people. And just like you did in the military, it's managing people, it's motivating people, it's trying to lead and build an organization as they do in the military with good core values, and ultimately find out, why are you here? What is the business here for? And our business is here to, obviously we want to do construction, but ultimately we want to help people. We want to do things for our community. We want to do things for my employees. We want to do things for my family. So it really is it's different, but then it's very related in the day-to-day aspects of when we're talking about managing people, if that makes sense.
So how cool is that? Burdick, we get this all the time, right? Johnny Bravo, he's JB, right? We all got cool war names. So he's JB, he's Johnny Bravo. But JB, I mean, is that not true? Like Shawn's talking and you can hear the common thread, man. Veterans, especially veteran business owners, we still want to serve. We still want to make a difference. We still want to have an impact. Our families, our communities, Shawn, we serve vets, right? The vet population. So simple mission, altruistic, but simple. We help military veterans land meaningful, lucrative post-service careers. Bang, that's all we do. So over the last 7 years, we've done it 6,200 times and counting. So we've gotten pretty dang good at it, right? Because that's all we do. There's no other ulterior motive. So, but the thread's the same. You want to get out, you want to make a difference. And gee whiz, man, I can't even imagine. So I'm an old Navy welder, but the very first beat I ever ran in the fleet, man, the Kitty Hawk, the day before I got out, the day before the very last beat I ever supervised being run on a Navy ship in the fleet was a Kitty Hawk. It was amazing, but I can't even imagine it. Naval Aviator. So the cool missions, and now you're still in the cockpit. You're still steering something. It's just your own business now, right? Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, it is really cool. And I find, obviously I love flying, and especially when you're, operational and you're doing the mission and you're doing what you were trained to do. That was awesome. I did a couple tours as a flight instructor, which was amazing, teaching kids how to fly and formation and all that cool stuff. That's great. But, I get a lot of fun also just the day-to-day running of the business, because, what's so much different than the military is that there's no structure really for us as entrepreneurs, man. You go in, you're like, you got to figure it out. And so, it is great because you see our business progress. And as I bring in people with similar mindsets that want to make differences, it's not about just making money. You know what I mean? Obviously, we want to make money. That's what we're here for a profit, but we want to make money so we can do those things, give back to our communities. We can afford to donate money. We can afford to donate our time. And so going into the workplace, when I see people that are motivated like us, it is really, really cool. And it's a lot of fun, and I'm having a great time. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress, but it is what it is,
But don't you think, Shawn, that your tolerance for the stress, your tolerance for uncertainty, your tolerance for, stuff getting sideways sometimes is a lot more because of where you've been and what your DNA. I mean, I tell people all the time, man, we're like Peter Parker, right? Like, we got bit, our DNA changed. Yeah. We walk among civilians, we look like them, but we'll never be one of them again. Yeah, you went from civilian to Naval Aviator, and then you went from Naval Aviator back to civilian, but you're not. You're different. You're vet, right? So, or retiree. So, isn't that cool, man? That it's not subterfuge. That's not the right word, but we're moving among them, and we know what we know, right? Like the calm, quiet ones, No,
cool? I mean, you're right. You've kind of been there, and as long, obviously, safety is a big concern for us, but we make mistakes all the time. I tell my clients, hey, we make a mistake. We're not perfect. We're going to fix it. My guys get really bent around the axle. I'm like, hey, nobody died today. You know what I mean? In the military, it's like you make a mistake, especially flying planes or whatever you're doing. I got buddies that were killed. I mean, it's like, hey, guess what, guys? You're all going back to your families this afternoon. It's going to cost us some money. We're going to learn from the mistake, and we're not going to make the mistake again. But it's all, I guess there's just a much more room for error here, if you will, than being out, operational and something happens out there. So you do have to have some, I know you do have more tolerance, I guess, for those mistakes and everything.
Yeah. So Shawn, what things do you think, brother, what things did you bring with you out of your career? Like, what things being as a veteran business owner, what skills, knowledge, abilities do you feel like that you learned in the service really set you up for success? And then, brother, if you can do it on live TV, what things have you since had to learn or since developed? Like, wow, I need this skill, or I need that skill, or I need to strengthen a muscle that that is atrophied since I left service, or that I never developed in service.
Yeah, I think the first part of that, the skills, as an officer, you really learn, it's beating in your head about taking care of your people. And that's what it's about. My employees, my guys in the field, I think a lot of companies, construction companies I know, they think their guys in the field are there to serve them. And I tell my PMs, hey guys, we're here to support. It's servant leadership, man. I guess summing it all up. We're here to support our guys in the field because they are the closest thing with our customer that we have. They are the guys executing day in and day out. So I know it's sexy to be back in the office, in a computer, and they're out there busting their butts, sweating in the hot sun, but I'm like, you're there to support them. So that's really, I think, the biggest thing that I've taken. We're still young, but we've implemented healthcare, we've implemented 401ks, and a lot of other companies aren't doing that. And we're growing fast, and we have people that want to come work for us. And so it's really taking care of our people. the typical skills that most military have is, hey, be on time. You know what I mean? Be responsive, be respectful. I mean, those go a long, long ways in the civilian marketplace now, the workplace, if you will, because we deal with so many companies. They don't return phone calls. They're rude. And I'm like, you know what? That's not how we get things done around here, So it's really with my folks, finding people that match those core values that we brought from the military and wanting to be proud of your organization and wanting to do the right thing for your people. That really, I think, have propelled our organization. As far as what have I had to learn, one of the challenges for me is I think I'm an introvert by nature. So the business development, the networking piece was so important that it's something that transitioning service members need to pick up immediately. Is even before they get out, they need to start getting involved with the community, particularly if they're staying in the place where they're retiring out of. You got to get involved. You got to get involved with the chamber. You got to get involved, and you got to get out of your comfort zone and start meeting people, because people want to help you. They do. When they hear you're a transitioning military member, they respect your service. They want to help you, but they have to meet you. You have to get out there and meet people. So I think that's kind of the skill. It's the business development skill aspect of that, the building of relationships that's really, I've had to really learn how to do that more of, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just talked to Veterans Florida, and that was almost exactly what they said. So I mean, there's an underlying theme, and for all the listeners out there that are watching these shows, you're going to pick up repeat themes, different nuggets of wisdom, kind of fold in together. But there's something that Shawn said right there was people have to know that you're a veteran if they're going to help you out. So maybe you have to tell them you're a veteran, and put it out there. And like I said, introvert, we don't like to brag, and we're humble, but you also got to give people information that they can make decisions on. I'm kind of intrigued, so you kind of had to a lot of times, at least from an aviator perspective, you get kind of stuck into this rut of, hey, I'm an aviator. That means I've got to be an aviator on the outside. You basically feel like you're typecast into that role because it is a professional role. You are a licensed pilot. How did you break that mold per se?
It's like I said, I've always had that desire for, my bachelor's degree. I went to USC. It was in entrepreneurship. So I've always kind of, from the start, obviously I wanted to be a pilot, but I've always had that, I don't know, it's really a question. To me, it was always a question. I'm like, okay, I've done well in the military. Okay, got it. It's structured. You show up on time, do your best, and work hard, and you're gonna promote. But when you get out in the civilian world, I've always wondered, do I have what it takes to build something from scratch and make it into this bigger company or whatever, our goal is. And so it's always been that kind of almost a curiosity, I guess it is, because you're right. It is easy for, and I see a lot of my friends do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. They go to the airlines, they make good money, and it's an easy transition. But for me, I wanted something different. I was like, I've done that piece, flying was great. That's another part of my life, but now I'm starting a new part of my life that I really want to challenge myself, and I want to kind of question or prove to myself that I can do this. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Well, it's perfect sense. And from a fellow aviator, although I was on the enlisted side, I could tell you that wasn't something that I ever wanted to do again. I didn't enjoy dragging bags to hotels. I didn't enjoy, other than the takeoffs and landings or some of the, open door drops or something that was really kind of fun or low combat stuff. The rest of it was extreme excitement or sheer terror with long boredom.
Dull. And I have had those, man. I mean, there was, like you say, a lot of time over in Iraq, over Afghanistan, Africa, and like you said, moments of sheer terror. And then a lot of times wow, looking down, going, what am I doing? So I knew, like I said, I don't bash my airline friends. They go from point A to point B. To me, looking out the window again and being bored out of my mind, I didn't want to do that. Even if the pay was great, it just, I just felt there was something. I want to do something a little bit different.
When it helps you, I mean, as you say that, it's not about necessarily not appreciating what the other people are doing currently, like still in the airlines. I think it's still a noble career, but I think it's
Absolutely.
really knowing what you like, what you
Yeah.
want to do. Doc talks about it all the time, is pick the things you like and try to do more of that. What's some of those skills that you felt like really transitioned, and that I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, and you've said some of it, but some of that life as an entrepreneur, you started out at USC, got the degree, and I think that planted the seed. Then you went and did something highly technical. Now you're back to it's still technical, but you're more in a leadership manager role. I guess, what kind of advice would you give to someone that's trying to recreate themselves?
Yeah, and that's a great, they talk about planning, and I thought about this before the podcast. Everybody talks about the TAP class and getting, your leave all taken care of and all that stuff that you have to do. But I think there's another type of planning. You got to do some internal, I think, perspective or internal, some soul searching, if you will. And I think as military are transitioning out, it's very important to find out, hey, what's my why? What is my purpose? And your purpose could be as simple as, hey, you know what? I'm happy punching a clock 9 to 5. I'm going to go home. I'm going to take care of my family, and I'm going to have the weekends off. And that's great. For me, it was spending some time soul searching on who am I going to be in this next life? And for me, I had a really crappy childhood. I was a product of Habitat for Humanity. My family and I were homeless at one point. So for me, it was about giving back. I'm like, okay, so how can I give back to the community? We didn't have a lot of money coming out of the military. I didn't plan as well as I should have financially. But now as the organization, as my company has gotten more successful, we're able to do that. We're able to, we volunteer a lot with Habitat for Humanity, Health and Hope, and some other charities. And so that really, what drives me, what my purpose is building this exceptional organization for my employees, for my team members, for my family, for my community. And it gets me into work every morning, to go, let's do this. And so I think, it's really looking back before you get out, or doing that, retrospective or introspective, analysis on who am I, what do I want to do when I get out, and now do it early enough so you can start putting those goals in place and hitting those milestones.
And it's funny you'd say that, Shawn. So, our mission is, help vets get meaningful, lucrative post-service careers. So I challenge our folks all the time. Most of us are service disabled, if that's the PM, and those of us are either spouses of or sons and daughters of veterans. So we're all in the veteran mafia club somehow. Mm-hmm. So, I challenge them, hey, help me create the place where you want to have a meaningful, lucrative post-service career. Like, this isn't, I took $500 in a vision 7 years ago and created an organization that helps that in 7 short years has helped over 6,200 guys and gals transition right out into, meaningful, lucrative post-service careers. So I know what I'm doing every day when I wake up. I wear flip-flops to work. I don't have to shave because I know the boss. Like, I know why I'm here. And, I brought honor, courage, and commitment with me, right? I mean, those three. But retooled it. Like, okay, here's our mission. Here's what we do. Here's why it matters. Here's to society and the economy and the nation and our brothers and sisters. And so we do integrity and commitment and excellence, right? Everything we do, if we're going to do it, my old man taught me this, don't half-ass it. If you're going to do it, son, do it. Bust it up. I don't care if you're a janitor, be the best damn janitor this side of the Mississippi, or don't do it. So commitment, right? Like, if we say we'll do it, you can take it to the bank that we'll do it, or we'll die on the hill trying to do it. Excellence. If we're going to do it and we're going to be committed to it, you might as well crush it into the upper deck, right? Swing as hard as you can. So what values did you bring to the company? What are your guys, how do you rally the folks around, hey, here's who we are, here's what we do?
Yeah. So, I've always kind of, having moved here and there and bought houses and stuff, we always dealt with a lot of general contractors. We're a general contractor here. And so, when you say the word general contractor, it's normally not a positive experience. You're like, oh crap, hey, I'm going to show up at 9 o'clock and I'll show up somewhere between 9 and 2, and then they never show up, and then they do crappy work. And so that's one of the things I almost pit ourselves against other GCs. And for us, it's about responsiveness and customer service, bringing back customer service to an industry that I feel lacks it. Amen. And so we do a good bit of federal work, and we do our private work's really starting to take on a lot more of that share, if you will. And talking to my guys every day, I'm like, it's customer service and responsiveness. If we do the right thing, we're not perfect. As I said before, we're going to make mistakes. If we make a mistake, I guarantee you, we're going to make it right. But if we do the right thing, if we're safe and we emphasize customer service and responsiveness, we're going to get all the work we can possibly get. And that's what we've seen. I mean, this year, we're going to be the third fastest growing construction company in Florida,
Too cool.
and we're going to be in the top, I think, 40th of service disabled veterans in the United States. So we see the results. And so, and that's when my folks just get so excited. It's a younger crew, if you will. And they're go-getters. You know what I mean? I got to hold them back. At some point, I'm like, hey, whoa, now we got to do good work though, because they want to chase everything. They want to win all these jobs. I'm like, that's great, but now we got to focus on execution. So, that's the part we're dealing with now is, hey guys, we've got to execute smartly now. And as a pilot, going by checklists, we're developing standard operating procedures, repeatable processes that we can use day in and day out. So that's some more skills there. I'm like, yep, we're developing checklists for everything. It's kind of nerdy, but guess what? That's what we do in the plane. No matter how many times you've strapped into the plane, you're always using your checklist, So, but yeah, I mean, it's great to see those people get motivated by that.
JB, as Shawn's chatting, it occurred to me, man, we ought to plug him in with Cinemaki at Veterans Florida. We ought to, we've got a DoD skill bridge program. We ought to plug you in, Shawn, with FAVOB, the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses, government set-asides and stuff. I mean, that's the reason that nonprofit was established. I mean, there's 180,000 plus veteran businesses in Florida, dude. And we're the only economically disadvantaged group recognized by the government, both federal and state, that does not have any set-asides. Every other demographic gets a set aside except vets. And we say it all the time. Hey man, I don't want something given to me. I'm not asking you to give me a favor. I'm asking you to give me an equal opportunity to take a shot on the goal and see if I can't score and win a pennant. That's all I want, right? So JB, we gotta get him plugged in, man. I mean, Shawn, I don't know where it'll go. Maybe business opportunities, maybe talent sourcing, maybe, all kinds of stuff, but we get vets all the time. In fact, I just placed an explosive ordnance disposal guy, a Navy guy. He's like, so I'm like, what do you want to do when you get out, brother? And he's a Mustang, right? And he's like, well, I don't want to do what I've been doing. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? He said, well, I think construction would be amazing. I've had enough office job. I want to be in the field. I'm like, nice. Okay, do you know how to spell construction? He's like, no, but I'll learn it. 6 weeks later, after a residency, we just placed him with a Fortune 250, Jeremy, nationally recognized construction company, and he's crushing it. We're throwing sign-in bonuses at him, Shawn. You know what I mean? And 3 months ago, he couldn't spell construction, but he got in there. There's another intangible for corporate America folks that are listening. Veterans have an aptitude to learn highly technical stuff extremely quickly and be technically proficient when we get on the other side of it. Why? Because that's how they teach us in every schoolhouse. And oh, by the way, Shawn nailed it on the head. When he shows up to his first duty station and he's got wings on his chest, they expect him to get an airplane and go do sorties. That's just it. Like, the assumption is made that he knows what he's doing. So he better learn it in school and, pass the proficiency test on the backside of the schoolhouse, right?
Well, your point is great. So our folks in the field, our superintendents, they're becoming very senior. They're older gentlemen, and they're going to be retiring soon. I mean, and we don't see a lot of that younger, population demographic coming in that want to be superintendents. Everybody wants to be the sexy PM guy, and it's like, you know what, I got it. We, go to college, become a project manager, but I'm like, but we need good people in the field too, and those guys are making just as much as my PMs. You know what I mean? And for us, it's mindset. It's like, hey, maybe you don't know everything right now. That's okay. We'll get you on some, like you said, an apprenticeship program or something like that. I just need you to be able to deal with people. And what's great about veterans is they're flexible too. Being so expeditionary at times, you have to figure stuff out. You know what I mean? And so that is so important for construction, is like, things don't always go as according to schedule. You got to be flexible and you got to be adaptable,
Amen.
Yeah, some stuff that you definitely learn as a veteran, right? I mean, if you're not flexible, you better find a different line of work.
Absolutely.
Gumby, right? Stay Gumby.
Yeah,
that's right. Super Gumby for sure. Yeah, and you said something. I think you really you defined a problem in today's general contractors or in construction, or really in the service industry. It's about customer service. And I got to be honest, I've talked to 4 people in the past 2 days that were really upset about the customer service they were receiving. And then I'm like, well, call somebody else. I did, same thing, bad customer service. So I think you've nailed it. Like, and for anybody, business owner out there, serve your customers, and they will, word of mouth will get over to you. Like if you came to my house and you were stand up, respectful, on time, produced what I asked you to, even if you did make a mistake, but you made it right, I would tell all my friends, hey, you want some concrete poured, call this guy, call Dominguez Design and Build, right? That's the group to go with. So I love that you're focusing on that rather than a bunch of things. If you nail that small thing, everything else cascades from it. So that's really cool. Really cool.
And we see those relationships being built with our federal customers too. The contracting officers, I'm always on the site, whether it's Tyndall Air Force Base, we have another office in Alabama. I'm always traveling, meeting with them, saying, hey, how are things going? If you got a problem, call me directly. And so that's worked out well. We've heard many times, you're the most responsive contractor we've ever dealt with. You're the best contractor we've ever dealt with. And I'm a minority, and we're service disabled, veteran owned. And so there's certain set asides we qualify for. Particularly the 8A one is one of those, and they go directly to me now. They just, hey, we need this done. Give us a good price, and we give a fair price, and we're off to the races. So that's really worked out well for us, and just taking care of your clients, doing.
So your folks, it's competitive advantage. Your folks see you, talk about leadership. Your folks see you modeling the behavior you want them to display, right? They see you servant leadership. They see you in the trenches getting it done, driving like the boss. Is it a 6-hour car ride to go from the Panhandle to Alabama to talk to the other customer? I mean, that's money where your mouth is stuff. And then you flip the coin, your customers, your outside vendors, your KOs especially, right? They just want their life to be easy, man. I'll award you a contract, but don't screw me on this, right? Because this is my professional reputation too. Just do what we've contracted to do.
Right.
Like you don't even have to put like super thick icing on the top of the cake, man. Just ice the cake like you said you would. So your customers, your vendors know you're different. They're like, wait a minute. I called Dominguez like it gets fixed, like he said it would. Yeah, I think I'll call it. I got a problem. I'm going to call Dominguez. You know what I mean? Like it's just habit. Yep. People like successful people. People like being able to tell, because the KO tells his functional, hey, you need this thing, I'll go find you a guy or a gal. He goes and finds the guy or a gal. He puts a dirt bag in there. Now everybody looks bad. He puts Dominguez in there and you hit it over the fence. I mean, you know what I mean? He gets a raise.
Well, and we talk of exactly what you just said. I said, listen, we want to make the KO's life easy because they got their own agenda. They want to impress their bosses too. If they can find a contractor who's fair and can get the job done, why? I deal with so many other construction companies where it's such a it's not a partnership between you and the contracting folks. They're going at each other. They're like, you know what, I'm not doing that little bit of work. That's extra work. You're gonna have to pay me for that. There's some things that we'll be like, oh, you need that done. Okay, that's not necessarily our scope of work, but we're going to take care of that for you. And it's just, again, like you said, make their life easy because they're going to come back to you when they need something else done. And I just don't understand this, button heads with government officials all the time. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think you can run the business the right way. Like, again, what we've done at VESA-PM, I mean, I was a business professor for a while and I never bought all the business cases. I don't think you have to run a business like everybody runs a business. I think you can take care of your employees. I think you can do a little bit of extra here and there for your customers. I think you can demonstrate that you're a human being once in a while. I mean, these podcasts, I don't walk in here in a suit and act like some CEO guy because I'm not. I'm a guy who founded a company and wants to serve my brothers and sisters. And I got an amazing team, the best team I've ever worked for, hands down. I can't even believe they let me work with them. You know what I mean? Like I'm the lowest common denominator, right? I shine because I'm a member of their team.
Absolutely.
It's amazing, right? So, but we just do, The Great Game of Business by with Jack Stack. I mean, if you've not read that book, it's an amazing book. And, Jeremy's my chief of ops and it changed the way we run the company. I mean, everybody buys in. We talk about financials every month. I mean, everybody knows what I know. They spend the money like it's their money. They make decisions like it's their company because it is. And there's not a challenge they haven't risen to, especially during COVID. I mean, I don't know about you, but it kicked us in the P&L a couple times. but we lived through it. It's like, okay, man, if this is as bad as it's going to get, right? Like Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the psychology of getting punched in the face. But once you get punched in the face, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. That's as bad as it's going to get.
Right.
All right, I'll get back in the ring. Like I can handle that. Right. You just got to take that first punch.
Yeah. And, I'm curious to know, what was that book you just said? What was it?
Oh, The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. I think it is.
Yeah, that's correct. Really good.
Yeah. Jack Stack.
Yeah.
Because, I read a lot of books. I'm reading the 4 Disciplines of Execution right now, but I think that's another thing that's great. That is a good point for your transitioning members is it's a lifelong learning process. I'm always reading books. Like you said, there's so many great veteran groups out there. You've got to get involved, and you've got, I did Boots to Business, all those things, anything free I could get from, IVMF from Syracuse University. I did all those programs just to build, you get a little bit of pieces, like you guys were saying, you get a little bit of information from each thing, each person you talk to, or each podcast you listen to. I read a lot, and just grab little tidbits of information. I think it's important though, to be that lifelong learner, to constantly improving yourself.
Yeah, I'm not the smartest one in the room, and I can learn something from everybody. And if I learn enough somethings, I'll be an ass kicker someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of those, like, I know you guys kind of talked about, and you're hitting at lifelong learning, just some of the habits you learned in the military. What's some of that stuff that you maintain today that keep you from, resting on your laurels?
Yeah, I think that's important. One of the things for my transition, it was a culture shock. And I mentioned it a little bit in my talking points. When my last tour in the Navy, I was the executive officer of NAS Pensacola. So it was very structured, meetings every day, not a lot of free time, and so to transition from there to, okay, now I'm an entrepreneur and what do I do now? It's really maintaining that discipline. And like I said, I read a lot of books, maintaining those daily habits, getting up in the morning early. I go lift, and then I come back and I'm reading, do some gratitude reflection, maybe a little meditation, just thinking about the day, and it charges me. It's amazing the differences when I don't work out in the morning and when I do. I feel so much more productive during the day when I do work out and I have just a little bit of time for myself to start those daily habits and get moving. And so, I would, for a couple months there after I transitioned, I maintained them. Then I got so focused, obsessed to the point with my business of success, because was really hit or miss for a while. They were just starting out. So I kind of got away from that. And I could see, you've got to focus on work and everything, but you've got to take care of yourself too. And so I think that's really critical is, when you transition out, you're used to PTing, and that's just everything you do in the military. And then when you get out and there's nobody telling you that. So complacency can set in very, very quickly if you don't continue to exercise those discipline skills of having those routines that you do daily. I think that's really, really critical for everybody.
That's great advice. Really great advice. And it's partly it's keeping those domains, like your spiritual, your physical body, everything is all at play together. And if you get unbalanced, a lot of times something topples. You're going to lose everything that you're gripping tight on. So some of that uncertainty that you talk about, like touch and go, that was right in the beginning of the business. So how did you deal with some of that fear and uncertainty, like you kind of mentioned?
Yeah, it was very stressful, and I have almost a fear of failure. That's what kind of pushed me through flight school. It wasn't so much the desire for the wings; it was more of, man, I'm not going to screw this up. I don't want to go back to my family as a region, as having failed. And so for me, it was very stressful for a while there. And just, constantly putting hours into the business. And so I got away from those habits, started getting back into those daily disciplines, if you will. And you start seeing some, I don't know if I wouldn't call it luck, because I don't believe in luck. I think there's opportunity meets preparedness. You know what I mean? And so it's really about being prepared mentally, physically, and with your business for those opportunities that occur. And so, I got complacent there for a while, but back to my daily habits and everything. And that really helps me with stress. For me, working out, running, stuff like that, it really helps me to clear my mind. Because if I don't do it, a lot of people get into more destructive habits of maybe drinking too much or, doing other things that they shouldn't be when you got to be out physically exercising to relieve some of that stress, if you will.
I love that you said that. One of my various early mentors, when I had finally started becoming aware that I was having a bad transition and that I was circling the drain in my head, and this guy was nationally recognized, and he kind of took me under his wing. He's like Michelangelo looking at a piece of a block of stone. He saw the statue, he saw the potential, not what he was looking at, right? So little bits of pressure at the right time and the right amount produced a diamond instead of a chunk of coal. But his definition of luck is there's no such thing. Luck exists, but it's being prepared to seize the opportunity when it presents itself, because the average bear is not. So to them, it looks like you were lucky, but you were just prepared enough to grab that opportunity when it presented itself, right? And that's essentially what you said. And I've never forgot that. Like, hey man, you don't know when it's going to present, so you always got to be prepared. You always got to be on your A game, and when it shows itself, hunt it down, get it.
No, absolutely. And I think that also goes into what we talked about earlier, was with the networking. As you meet more people and you share your experiences with them, and they want to help you, that luck really, we've helped out a couple of bigger construction companies. Just they weren't new to the area we were working on, so we didn't charge them anything. It was all about collaboration. We helped them, and they came back literally 2 weeks later and said, you know what, here's a private client for you that you need. And we picked up that private client, and we're going. So it's getting involved, like I said, with your community. And for us, it's all about collaboration with other companies. I don't really worry too much about my competition. I would try to help as many people as I can, because I know they'll look out for you also in the future. But, the other thing, Jeremy, you kind of hit on is, it's a culture shock. And because I went from being a pilot, a 1310, a Naval Aviator, wearing this uniform every day, and then you come out to the civilian world and nobody knows you. And it's really, it's kind of what's your identity now? And I think that impacts a lot of people. And it's okay to get professional help for that. If you don't know where you're at, where you're having problems with your identity, you got to talk to somebody. You got to get help. So I think, for me, luckily, I had really thought a lot about what I wanted to do. So I felt like I knew where my identity was, but I could see how others can, lose that when you're not this MOS anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I think even the fear of failure that you mentioned, it can turn into that imposter syndrome, and then it can turn into, oh no, I've lost everything that I used to be, because you put so much stock into it. I was a zipper suit flight god, right?
Absolutely.
And now what am I? Like, all my network is still in, or they've transitioned and done something, but yet I put in, 30 resumes and I've got no bites. And it's only been 3 days, but it feels like 3 years.
Right.
And before,
absolutely.
It really tears at the fabric of what you built, that house of cards that you built up, that you thought was really strong. Really just a small breeze, like taking a uniform off,
absolutely.
So,
especially after you've been at the pinnacle of your career. Hey, I was the flight eng. Hey, I was the pilot. Hey, I was the XO of the base. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that, it almost vaporizes instantly, because you get back off that terminal leave, man. They don't care who you are. They don't know what commander this meant. They don't know what NAS means. And even if they do, if they didn't serve, they don't give a shit, right? You're just Mike, or you're Eric, or you're Jack, or you're Janie. Like, hey, did you punch in? Hey, did anybody show you where the cafeteria is? Like, I'll be back in 30 minutes. Okay. Like, they just don't, they don't care.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, and you're just another, person out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As you begin to any like things that I know you talk about planning out front, like how far do you recommend people start planning? I know you did it quite a while, like you said, 5 years. Do you recommend that path, or do you say, hey, maybe that's a little too long, or,
it might be too long. I knew I was getting, again, I knew a minority I knew I was going to be service disabled. So I knew I was positioning myself for the federal contracting marketplace. So I knew I had to start out there to align my business with those goals I was trying to meet. but I would say as early as possible, and maybe, at least doing some soul searching on what do I want to do? Because, you know, when you get out, what exactly do you want to do? Because now this is for me now. It's not, I'm no longer serving the military now. You hope that the transitioning service member can do what they want to do now. Hopefully some of them, are retiring, some aren't, but if you're lucky enough to be retiring, maybe you have enough money now where you can kind of start looking at what do I really want to do.
Yeah.
So, timeline, I don't know. For me, it was probably the right time just to align all my resources for that, but I would at least a few years out.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think too often we see people wait until the last 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. And when I have those friends too that I'm like, hey, you're getting out? And they're like, well, what are you going to do? Like, I'm not really sure. And a lot of times they're not going to be able to capture the salaries that they think they should get and that they will eventually get, when they get into the workplace and get moved. Because, the military member is going to get into a job or a career, and they're going to move up pretty quickly. I promise you. You're going to move up quickly with the like we talked about, with the skills you have, with the core values that you have. You're going to stand out amongst your peers. It's just going to take time. You know what I mean? So you've got to be patient.
Yeah. Having said that, that brings up a really great point. How do you feel about a person taking a job or a salary that is lower than what they believe? Or should they be more patient and look for the job? Or is it easier to look for the job while you have a job? Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's easier to fall. I think it's easier to look for a job once you're in there. Because like I was saying, it might be less than you want. I mean, if it's in the industry, if it's in a similar position to where you want to be, or if it's below the position you want to be, I think you go for it. Because, obviously with demand for labor right now, there's a lot of people vying, a lot of competition out there. They're vying for your work. And if you're starting to break out amongst your peers, either they're going to promote you or you're going to start talking to people that will take you away from that current company. I promise you. So I'm all about, hey, get in when you can, obviously don't sell yourself short, but if it's less than you would like, fine, but go in there and prove them to them that, because an employer is going to see that you're worth it. And they're going to either, like I said, they're either going to, they're smart. They're going to compensate you better, or else they're going to lose you.
True.
And I tell vets that all the time too. So we build up this sense of loyalty and duty and honor and, all that stuff. Right. So I'm not saying don't be you. And I'm not saying, 86 that stuff, but I tell vets all the time, man, it is not unheard of out here in the Civ Div for a guy to change jobs every 18, 24, 36 months. You got to let go to some degree that loyalty thing. I mean, out here in the Civ Div, it's about time and money and competition. And like you said, Shawn, if they realize they're underpaying you or they've undertitled you or something, they'll either make it right or somebody else will throw more money at you. That's the solution out here in the Civ Div. Throw money at them. So, if you can, as long as in an interview, you can show that you're parlaying, hey, here's what I learned, here's what I did, here's what that allowed me to do, here's how I increased my responsibility or my accountability or my impact or whatever, and I got the compensating salary. It's not a ding on your loyalty or your ability to be loyal. Go play for the next team. I mean, it's about qualitatively, it's about taking care of a vet first. Absolutely. But hey, man, I'm a business guy. And the easiest way to keep score in business is what was my revenue last year? Did it grow? Did it decrease? Is it bigger? Hey, how many customers did I have last year? Did we grow that number? I mean, keep score, go win pennants. It's a lot of fun.
Anyways, but yeah, I think loyalty goes both ways. I mean, they have to realize your worth, because I know a lot of construction companies that pay their guys dirt and they don't pay them enough and they leave the company. They have tremendous turnover. And so you got to take care of your people if you want to keep them. When you find somebody good, you got to maintain that. You do whatever you can to keep them. And like I said, when military service members are not going to have a problem showing their value in an organization.
And it's competitive advantage for the companies that do figure that out. If I keep good talent and I've got the A players on my team, we consistently win pennants. We establish dynasties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful. I do think there is a lot of loyalty in the veteran mindset. I think it's important to maintain some of that, like you said. It's also okay to not compromise yourself. That's another big
Absolutely.
thing. It's like you shouldn't compromise your values. You shouldn't compromise what you're being asked to do if it's not something that you want to do or want to be a part of in the long term. So be yourself advocate, go out and be the person you want to be. And if, like Shawn said, if they're going to recognize really fast. We talk to a lot of veterans, and I swear we get reports all the time of, hey, I was promoted twice this year.
Yeah.
It does happen. And it happens very quickly in a lot of organizations. Maybe not the big, Amazons of the world, but in a lot of the other organizations, they see the value of that individual very quickly and they move you up. So just because you're doing a position at a lower salary, not doing exactly what you want to do, there's always potential for growth. And then on the flip side, if you're compromising your values, run, get out of there. There's probably another job. So,
yeah, and I think the organization, the leadership of the organization owes that to you as their team member. They owe you the vision of where they're going. They owe you, they need to, give you the core values and say, this is what we're about. And you want to be part of that organization. So, they owe you leadership, to show you where they're going so you can help them build that organization in advance and become part of that.
Well said. Well said.
They owe you leadership. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I'm going to scribble that one down. I like that.
Well, thanks.
All right. So as we wrap this up, are there, what kind of little things that you could pass along that you would say, if you do these, I don't know, I don't want to put a number on it, but let's say a 3-point plan. If you do these 3 things, the success of your transition will be greatly increased.
I would say, like we talked about, the first thing is do some internal, soul searching and what is your purpose? What are you going to do? What do you want to do when you get out? And if you can do that early enough, you can start aligning resources, aligning education, whatever it is towards that goal, I guess it is. I would say the second one is just be a lifelong learner. Get those good discipline, read. I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly, if there's any type of, training going on for business from the veterans groups out there, get involved in that, and just keep improving yourself, keep building that resume. I'm not a big certification guy, but if you can get some here and there, that will help you get to your resume, help you build that resume. And then I think the third thing is get involved, start networking now, start getting involved in your community, volunteering with different groups. The Chamber of Commerce is at the various cities are a great organization to get involved with. The young professionals, there's a lot of different organizations that you can get involved in. Start doing that now so you can start meeting people. So as you can transition, you can help them help yourself, if you will, because they want to help you. They just need to know that you are out there and you need the help.
Wow. Yeah, great start. So purpose, right? Define what you want to do, what you want to be, and then align maybe some education, certification with that. And then lifelong learner, don't stop, right? Read the books that are pertinent to your career field or
become an expert in that field. Exactly.
That's right. And then you can speak the lingo. We talk about this with one of the Doc wrote the book, right? How to, speak civilian fluently.
Yep.
And it's all about learning the lingo of management. The people that you want to become that, you better learn to speak like them or you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. And then finally, involvement. We talk all the time about network, but I like your approach is maybe where you want to live, go figure out the local networks that can help you be successful in the area that you want to live. So really cool. Doc, what do you think on that? What's there to unpack?
So, lifelong learner, reading books. Burdick and I are always like, hey, dude, you reading this book? I'm reading this book. You ought to check this book out. So, Shawn, and if you're like me, you can see on my bookshelf, there's dozens of books. I've read most of them multiple times, right? Even though I know how the movie ends, because they're just life-changing. They help me figure out how my brain works or how my soul works or how my heart works or how my business should work or this instruction manuals. And they're written by people much, much smarter than I am. So why would I recreate the wheel? So if I ask you for your top 10, top 5, top 3, it gets a crazy list because I'm sure you have top, 3 dozen. But what book would you recommend that somebody listening to this right now, hey, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my business, or I'm having a little bit of trouble with my head, or I'm having a little bit of trouble with what book do you feel like has really helped you be successful on the other side of the transition bang?
If I had to pick one, and it's a quick read, it's called Miracle Morning, because it really helped me establish those morning rituals, if you will. And it's not just about exercising, it's getting up and being grateful for my spouse and my kids, and taking a moment, 10 minutes out of the day to say, you know what? I'm grateful for this. Just getting alone, some quiet time after you work out or whatever. It makes you read, you're reading something, related to your field, if you will. So that has really helped me, particularly in the mornings, building those daily habits. Atomic Habits is great. I'm reading the 4 Disciplines of Execution, like I talked about, the greatest salesman in the world. There's a lot of them, and you could Google a lot of them. When I travel, I listen to a lot of podcasts. That drives my wife crazy because she wants to when she comes with me, she wants to listen to the radio, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're putting on another stupid podcast." I'm like, "Listen, this is about being the best person we can be, the best person I can be." So I listen to a lot of podcasts. Tim Ferriss, the construction, some other construction podcasts. So stuff like that. Tim, there's a couple other ones, but anyways.
As a business guy, Shawn, have you ever read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich?
Absolutely, and that's another great one. Which is
amazing?
And I listen to a lot of Jim Rohn. Running, the motivational guy that talks about goals, and he did a lot of that Think and Grow Rich, which is great because it is, you almost have to, especially as an entrepreneur, you have to. In my mindset, it's like, I'm not going to fail. And that's one thing that the military has taught me is resiliency. It's like, yeah, we make the mistakes, but I'm never, ever going to quit. You know what I mean? And that's, I think what you need is just that resiliency of I'm going to make it happen. It's going to happen. It may take some time.
Yeah. Think about the power of that, right? Like, so you had a thought, you made a plan, it manifested, and now you're making payroll. Those folks are feeding themselves. They're putting kids in college. You got KOs whose lives are better because they know Shawn Dominguez. I mean, it's just, to me, that I've got goosebumps. To me, that book was like, wow. Yep. So that's what you did, right? Think and Grow Rich. And you can do it as many times as you want. Your potential is unlimited. So if for those of you out there in MTA Podcast Nation, if you have not read Think and Grow Rich, do yourself a favor, like Shawn was saying, figure out what your purpose is. And when we say things like that, it's coming from a guy who's not necessarily touchy-feely. Dude told you he's an introvert, and he also told you he's an ass kicker in business. So, why reinvent the wheel, right? Read the book, help yourself create a plan on how to, take a thought, energy, turn it into matter, something, a company, a team, a tribe, something, make an impact. You'll feel amazing in the morning when you're giving gratitude, or you're working out, or you're, at the end of the day when you're having dinner, whatever.
And just have confidence in your skills to do that, because if you've been successful in the military, you have all the skills you need right there to make all this happen. You're going to run circles around the civilians out there. You just got to figure it out. What do I want to do?
That's right. Good deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Shawn, dude, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to have a chat with us. This has been amazing. Really appreciate you coming on.
No, I appreciate your time, and thank you for having me. And let me know how we can help out our veterans. Please keep in touch. We're always looking at different resumes for veterans. We have a couple on our staff, so let us know how we can help out.
Yeah. We know a good placement company, so we'll take care of you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Shawn. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you for tuning in and spending a bit of time with us at the Military Transition Academy, powered by Vets to PM. If we piqued your interest, but you want more details, please head over to the website vets2pm.com and see if we can help prepare you for a better tomorrow or a future meaningful and lucrative career.